Who do you think you are? What channel am I even watching anymore? Are we gonna have any fun in 2026? It's probably one that's gonna break my heart. This one just sort of became required reading for me. I know, and if I take 14 years to finish it, I've got some dark stuff on here. This will be my 2026 Thanksgiving table topic conversation piece. Adds to TBR. Hold please. Coffee break. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, well, so am I, so welcome. I'm happy you clicked and stopped by. I hope everyone had a very good Christmas, holiday, whatever you celebrate. I hope that it was cozy and lots of fun, and you made some great memories. Today's video, as the title indicates, is my 26 for 26 list, which, if you aren't familiar with these kinds of videos, they are the 26 books that I am planning on reading for 2026. It's a lot to keep track of to go over, but hopefully you've grabbed yourself a drink and are settled in for a bit of a chatty video. Maybe you pick up one or two recs off of my list to add to yours. So without further ado, let's just dive right in. I do have these in alphabetical order. All right, kicking it off is Alchemized. The origin of Alchemized is actually a Harry Potter fanfiction called Manacled. It is a Draco Hermione fanfiction. It is an alternate universe in which Voldemort did succeed. Manacled was and is beloved by many and garnered so much attention that the author actually got the opportunity to traditionally publish Manacled, but of course, because Harry Potter is not her original IP, she had to take the material, create her own world and her own characters, but it's based off of Manacled. I've not read Manacled, but I don't think you need to in order to read and appreciate Alchemized. So next year I will be reading Alchemized. I hear it is extremely dark and extremely triggering. Yeah, I'm not too sure what I'm getting myself into, but I'm here for the experience. Next, we have Dance of Thieves. This is about a outlaw family that comes into power in one kingdom, and in another, the queen has hired a well-known street thief to do some recon on that outlaw family. It's sort of a cat and mouse chase over what is true and what is false. Lots of people rave about this book, so I'm intrigued by it as well. I should probably preface this next one by saying that 2025 was the year I read purely for fun. It was nothing but mood reading, and it was a great time. However, one powerful aspect of reading is the ability to open your mind, to challenge your perspective, to empathize perhaps with a certain period in history, and to understand and appreciate the culture in which a piece of literature was written. And therefore, throughout this list, I've sprinkled in some timeless classics, but also I included an Irish classic. I have a huge soft spot for Ireland. I've been there twice. I would go there tomorrow. I went there on my honeymoon, and each time that I've gone, I've just left a bit of my soul there. So in the spirit of appreciating Ireland, I've decided to read Dubliners by James Joyce, which is a collection of short stories centered around middle-class families in Dublin in the very early 1900s, just before Ireland's push for independence. So a very critical, high-tension time for those in Ireland. Next, we have Dune. Do I need to say any more? No, it's Dune. We're reading it. And of course, following that is Fury Bound, Book 2 of the Wolves of Ruin trilogy. You guys saw how I absolutely lost my mind over Dire Bound in the reading blog. This is Book 2. It's not coming out till May, but it is one of my highly anticipated reads for 2026. Then we have Given, which is book 1 of the Giving Chronicles. It's marketed as a slow burn, dark, romantic fantasy where individuals are marked by gods to serve them, and those who are marked are called the Given. But of course, not all is as it seems. Next book is Go as a River. This is literary fiction marketed as a heartbreaking coming-of-age tale, which I am a sucker for any kind of coming-of-age story. It seems to be quite a beloved book, and I don't read a lot of literary fiction, so this is one to kind of get me out of my comfort zone. The comfort zone basically being fantasy, romantic fantasy, and fantasy with romance. And yes, there's a difference between all three. Next book is Medusa. When I curated this list, I wanted to find fantasy books that I've heard nothing about and that carry zero hype. Essentially, the underdogs. Only because a lot of the fantasy books that do have a lot of hype tend to follow the same formula and have therefore become rather predictable for me. So I'm looking for something with a bit of a unique plot, and I'm hoping that this book serves that purpose because it is a villain's origin story, which already is ticking the box for me. And after that is Light Wielder, book 2 in the Fire and Metal series. Metal Slinger was absolutely one of the best books that I read in 2025. I really adore Rachel Snyder and I can't wait to see what happens next, especially with where we left off in book 1 and definitely where we left off in that bonus chapter. What is gonna happen next? I need to know. Moving on to Mistborn. So as I mentioned earlier, because I've reached a point in fantasy where everything is pretty predictable, I want to vary up my types of fantasy. Hopefully 2026 is the year I dip my toe into the world of Brandon Sanderson, who is a well-respected author of fantasy, and I hear he packs a lot of politics into his books, so I think I'm gonna love it. Next we have Shy. Shy is probably one that's gonna break my heart. Maybe if I'm in the mood to cry, maybe if I'm dealing with some sort of emotional blockage in 2026, I will pick up Shy, because Shy is a novel with themes centered around guilt, rage, imagination, and boyhood. It's about to be adapted into a movie starring Cillian Murphy, so naturally this one just sort of became required reading for me. Ooh, this next one, very, very excited about. Tell Me an Ending by my newly beloved Jo Harkin, who I discovered very recently this year. In my last vlog, I read The Pretender, which she wrote, and absolutely loved it and was just completely in awe of that literary journey she took me on. But The Pretender was historical fiction. Tell Me an Ending is actually science fiction about a tech company who erases people's memories and the people who now have to confront their forgotten memories. And I think this is actually the first book that she's written. Then we have The Art Thief. I love a nonfiction that reads as fiction, which is what I keep hearing about this book. This is actually a true story about an incredible art thief who pulled off over 200 successful art heists in broad daylight. This sounds absolutely thrilling. And then we have Eye of the World. 2026 is the year I finally get into The Wheel of Time. Wait, that series has like 14 plus books. Yeah, I know. And if I take 14 years to finish it, that's okay. I'll be happy. I loved the show. I haven't watched season 3. I did hear that it was sadly canceled. So I figure it might be fun to read the books up to wherever season 3 leaves off and then watch season 3 and then continue on with the books. Next is the favorites. Y'all, I've got some dark stuff on here, okay? So I need to lighten it up a little bit and get back to a fun time, which is what I'm expecting the favorites to deliver. As a little girl, I've always loved watching figure skating, so a romance book centered around that sport sounds like a great time. Yeah. No, you saw that right. And I know what you're thinking, guys. I know what you're thinking. Who do you think you are? What channel am I even watching anymore? Are we gonna have any fun in 2026? And of course we are. But we're also gonna find some soul along the way. Before I introduce this book, it's only right to introduce the man, the one, the only, Fyodor Dostoevsky. I'm not Russian. I'm sorry if I butchered that. Here is a brief bio-op provided by Fable, my favorite book tracking app. Fyodor Dostoevsky is a Russian novelist, essayist, short story writer, journalist, and philosopher. His literature examines human philosophy during the turbulent social, spiritual, and political atmosphere of the 19th century Russia. He is considered one of the greatest psychologists in world literature. And now for the book. The Idiot tells the story of a young prince whose simple goodness is wrongly confused with a lack of intelligence by all he encounters. The Idiot is considered one of 4 of Dostoevsky's masterpieces. Do I know what I'm getting into reading a classic such as this? No. Will I need help breaking down this book to understand it and doing some light research before even diving in so that I can fully appreciate the time period? Yes, absolutely. But that's half the fun of reading. And you know, for once, I'll be reading something that'll actually impress my sister and her fiance. Oh yeah, this will be my 2026 Thanksgiving table topic conversation piece. And yes, it's not lost on me that my most sophisticated read of 2026 is called The Idiot. But that's just the way it turned out, okay? Next we have The Importance of Being Earnest. Y'all, who said classics couldn't be funny? I remember reading this one in the 11th grade and giggling and having a great time, so I guess I'm feeling a bit nostalgic and want to revisit it again as an adult. Then we have The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. While we're on the topic of Rachel Gillig, let me just pause to show you one of the beautiful gifts that my husband got me for Christmas, which is a custom rebinding of The Shepherd duology. One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns. These are so gorgeous, and you guys, the trees, I just want to cry all over again. I can't look at it too long because I will get teary-eyed and emotional. But these are absolutely stunning rebindings, and on the back you have what looks like to be one of the cards and several of the cards. So yeah, I was very touched to open this gift and can't wait to reorganize my bookshelf again and display them. Getting back to our list, in 2026 I will be reading The Night and the Moth. It is the first book, I think, in a new series that she's gonna write. She is a 6-star author for me, so I am pumped to get to this book. Next we have a collection of short stories called The Pelican Child. These stories surround visionary childhood misfits as well as struggling adult dreamers, and it just seemed like a short yet very moving book to read. And then, whew, getting back to the fun, we have The Poison Daughter. I'll just read you the first line of the synopsis to sell the book to you, okay? Ready? Every person Harlow Carinwell kisses dies immediately. Adds to TBR. Next we have The Shadow of the Wind. Here's a blurb about that. Anyone who enjoys novels that are scary, erotic, touching, tragic, and thrilling should rush right out to the nearest bookstore and pick up Shadow of the Wind. And that is exactly what I'm gonna do. Well, I'm not going to rush out the door. I'll eventually get there in 2026. This book will definitely be read. Now we have The Sword of Kaigen. I know there's a lot of discourse around this book, but it's a standalone fantasy, which is always tempting, and I'm curious to see what my own thoughts are on it. All right, guys, moving into the last 4, we have The Wager, A Tale of Shipwreck, Mutiny, and Murder. This is another book to get me out of my comfort zone. I'll actually be reading this one with my husband, so that'll add an extra layer of fun and hopefully get him into reading. And also, maybe I convince my dad to read this one. And then we have The Will of the Many. Listen, my #1 influencer is my best friend Sarah, and so if Sarah says she's obsessed over a book, it then becomes required reading for me. And these books are massive. I think it's a book series that is 4 to 5 books long, but she said to read it, so it absolutely made it on the list. Then we have When the Moon Hatched. I actually already have this book on my bookshelf, and it's also one that has some discourse around it. Essentially just boils down to whether or not you can get along with the writing style, and I'm definitely willing to try because the book cover is stunning. Who doesn't love a fantasy world centered around dragons? It comes with a glossary. I've been told it takes some brain power to get into, so color me intrigued. And then we're wrapping up with Wuthering Heights. I know there's a new movie adaptation coming out, and I've actually never read this classic before, and so naturally it found its way on the list. And that is my 26 books for 2026. I've read about 45 books this year in 2025, so this list is really just one I can count on to bring me some variety outside of my mood reading and to also challenge me a bit. But anything else is going to be, of course, purely mood reading and whatever sounds like a fun time. thank you guys so much for watching. It would mean the world to me if you did subscribe. If you want to see my full reading list, I'll pop it on this next clip. Bye!